Okay, students, so if you haven't done so already, you should print out the note sheet that is right before the screencast links. And what we're going to talk about here is, the concept of a number and what are the different uses of a number. This is something that's always pretty interesting for students because it's pretty simple, common sense, but it's just something you don't really ever think about. So I had you guys do 2 discussion prompts before you were able to view this screencast. And I wanted to see, what your thoughts were initially in terms of, what does it mean to count? What does it mean, does it mean to be able to recite numbers, to write the numbers down? What does all of that mean? So that's what those discussion prompts were about. So what we're going to talk about here is first numbers versus numerals. Okay, a number is an idea. So when I say the number 3, that symbol right there is a numeral. And when I say it out loud, I have a word that pronounces that numeral, and that's 3. But what's evoked in your head when I say 3, or you see this symbol written down, is usually a quantity of 3 items. So a number is an idea that has to do with amount or sometimes order. But usually we think of amount or quantity. All right, so when we talk about, what is counting, well, the little kid, I think I said he was your nephew, who was reciting numbers, reciting numerals, is that really counting? Our answer to that is no. It's just recitation. It's nothing really very different than a child being able to say their ABCs. Just because you know your ABCs certainly doesn't mean that you know how to read. Just like knowing how to count to 10 doesn't mean that you know what it really means to count. So counting means finding cardinality of a set. The easy word for that is manyness, or how many. So when a child can count, they can answer your question, how many? And you can usually tell when a child has learned how to count because they're going to look at a number here. Look at this. You say how many balloons, and they're going to do what's called one-to-one correspondence, which means they're going to touch each object once. And they're going to do something like this. 1, 2, 3. And when they say the word 3, they're going to say it either with more emphasis or perhaps they'll repeat that word to let you know that that's the answer to the question. So in order to count, a small child has to recite the numerals in order. They have to use one-to-one correspondence. But what's really imperative is that they figure out that the number they end on is the cardinality or the manyness of the set. Of course, a small child's not going to use the word cardinality, but they're certainly going to answer the question, how many? So that's one of our uses of numbers. Okay, so how are numbers used? Cardinality is certainly one of the uses of numbers. Another way we use numbers that really has nothing to do with numbers is in an instance like this, where this looks like maybe a baseball jersey. And we use numbers all the time for identification. mean, if you think about it, for some reason, sports teams identify their players by numbers. They certainly could have used letters or strange symbols, but for some reason we use numbers. But the numbers don't have anything to do. They're not really an idea, an amount, an order, or anything like that. So far we have two uses of numbers, cardinality and identification. This next picture here that I'm scrolling to, I found this on the internet, and the reason I bring it up is because it does some things nicely. So it is hooking together the word for a number. It's hooking it to cardinality, the counting, so the association of the number of objects. However, it does have a mistake on it. That should not say number there. Hopefully you can answer the question, what should this say instead? It should say numeral, because the symbol that we use to represent numbers is a numeral. One analogy I've heard before is, the name of a person. So my name is Kelly. That's like my numeral. My name is my numeral. But the person, me, is the number. So it's kind of an interesting analogy. It might make some sense to you. All right, one more use of numbers can be seen in this cute little picture here, and that is ordinality. So ordinal numbers are these numbers that we're seeing here. It's not too hard to remember. They talk about the order that you're in. And they certainly have quite a connection to cardinality, because if your ordinal number is 10, so if you are 10th, then if you wanted to count the number of trains in front of you, the number of people in front of you in line, whatever it is, then that would be one less than your ordinal number, that kind of thing. So the ordinal numbers is our third use of numbers. So again, we have cardinality, how many? We have identification, which really isn't a real use of numbers, but we include it in this. And then finally, ordinality, which is a number indicating your order. That's it.